Okay, let's look at another example of a quadratic equation. Let's say you had x squared minus 49 equals 0. This is a quadratic equation. There's no b term, but it does factor. You could factor it into x plus 7 and x minus 7. And so you get two solutions. X equals 7. Well, I'll put the negative one first. Negative 7 or 7. Okay, so you can think about that a little bit. But we haven't, that would be solving by factoring. So this is by factoring. But we have another really good way to solve it, and it's called using the square root property. So let me tell you what the square root property says. It says if you have something squared equals b, then a equals either the opposite of the square root of b, or a equals the square root of b, right? So think about what we had a minute ago. We had x squared minus 49 equals 0. If you were to put the 49 back on the right, and you had x squared equals 49, well then what we're saying is, oh, you can take the square root of both sides, okay? So you're applying the square root principle. And the way that looks, so in this case, I'm taking the square root of this side, that's what gives me the x, and I'm taking the square root of this side. The only thing is you have to insert what's called the plus or minus symbol. You have to consider that it could be negative or it could be positive because you're taking the square root, okay? So here's the property, and then how do we solve? So what we're going to do is we're going to have something squared equals, you know, something, 25, we'll say. And then I'm going to apply the square root principle by taking the square root of both sides. And you just have to remember, I'll say don't forget the plus or minus because you need that in there. And then you have x equals plus or minus. So there's the plus or minus symbol. And then what's the square root of 25? 5, right? Okay, so this indicates two answers. I don't care if you use the plus or minus symbol. In my lab, they might want you to write them separate, which is fine. You just write negative 5 and 5. Or you can write it in a set notation if you want. That's fine too. I'm not super picky. Now, sometimes, you know, my lab might want it a specific way, so just follow the directions. Okay, so what are the steps to solving for, to solve by using the square root property? First of all, you can only have one term, I should say one variable term. Okay. Sorry about that. One variable term. So you're going to see some examples in a minute. So I can have something like x squared equals, you know, whatever. Or I could have 3x squared equals whatever. Those are fine. You could have something like x plus 2 squared equals whatever. And that's fine. These are generally kind of the three different forms we're going to probably see it in. But those all work with the square root principle. Notice that I just have an x term, and then over here is some number. An x term, and over here is some number. Here I have an x term, but I just have the one x, and then over here is some number. Okay, we're going to do some examples. But you have to kind of check for that. Okay. Get x term, and there's going to be some square involved on one side. Apply square root principle. Take the square root of both sides. Property. I keep saying principle, but it doesn't matter. Property. They use those interchangeably. Okay, and then you're going to simplify. Solve and simplify. How's that? Okay. And then finally, we're just going to say you can check the answer. Okay. Oh, that's it for this video. Okay, we'll show you the examples in the next video.